and welcome back to Read Becca for my weekly catch up on everything I read, everything I'm reading, and everything I'm looking forward to reading. So I had a kind of lost week again. This is a running theme this month apparently, where I just lost a couple days to work pretty much, and I was also not feeling totally well. I very rarely get actually sick, but I was just feeling under the weather, not quite right, and being very tired. So I indulged that and just didn't do very much. So I did read some, and I finished a couple of things, one of them being a big chunky book. Yay! So the first thing that I finished was the long ongoing The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. It's over 500 pages, and this is stunning. This is one of my new favorite books. It is very Asian inspired, mythic, epic fantasy, and it's all in a single volume. So this is not the start of a series as far as I know, and as far as the story of the book, it concludes, definitely. This is a lovely tale of like a nested story structure, telling the very bottom layer story is of these two soldiers who are on an epic journey with an item-ish, and they're on the run from the villains, ever trying to outpace this villain as they go. It's a very Asian styled mythology that's behind all of this, and the vibes of the world building are very Asian styled. But what makes this so special is the writing, and it's hard to get across just how special it is from the writing. I am going to try to do a standalone review of this, so I don't want to go in too in depth, but it's a very nested story structure where you have 3 layers of story, and so that third layer, you kind of have to slowly get there through the first 2 layers, if that makes any sense. It's also being told in different perspective, so first, second, and third perspective are all used here, and at times it will move between third and first in the same paragraph, and it works. So I don't want you to go in feeling that this is overly complex. I mean, it is complicated, but I kind of went in trying too hard to pay attention to it, and once I just went with the flow and sort of sank into it, and once you get into the story, it will be very easy to read. It's really consumable, readable, and pulls you along. So that's all I think I want to say. It's a great book. It's stunning. It's like nothing I ever read before. As far as warnings, it does have a lot of gore and violence. This is really pretty graphic. So I wouldn't call it grimdark though, because it does still have a pretty strong thread of hope toward the end. And there's a major point of this that's about love. And it even says very early on that this is a love story. So that is a prominent theme. It's very uplifting in the end. But there's a lot of violence along the way. And there's Ripley for a cameo. She's trying to convince me that it's dinner time. So that is The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. And then I read just a comic graphic novel, something. This is Flight, Volume 1. And I don't know what to call this because it's a collection of single, like one-shot comics that are each on the topic of flight and each by a different artist. So it's not cohesive, it's not trying to tell a single story, but it's collecting up almost like a short story collection anthology, but it's not quite. So the first one even is a poem. So it's a poem by someone else, but then it's illustrated by a certain artist incorporated into this. So I really enjoyed almost all of them. I don't think they were all the most well developed because they are both short and illustrated. Some of them don't even have words, they're just illustrations telling a story, and I thought those were actually probably my favorite. But this has a collection of authors that are very diverse, and so they're all coming at this from a different lens, and I loved that aspect of it. It's a bunch of authors I mostly hadn't heard of before or hadn't read from before. The only one I think I had read from is Jen Wong, and I liked one of hers the best because she uses this mixture of different media types. So we had pencil art, kind of collage art, with, it looked like origami paper, and some sort of painting. Really, really lovely, this mixed media. There was another one that was all paper art, it seemed like, that I really enjoyed. So I'll try to insert some of the artwork, but this was such a varied collection. There's so many different styles in here that I loved going through it just for the art, even more so than the stories. So maybe a little underdeveloped in terms of these being short, quick little stories, but I enjoyed it a lot. This is also a very long-running series, apparently, where I think they have like volume 10 and 11 or something. They have much more volumes at my library to pick up, so I can check out more if I want to pursue this. And I definitely would like to, because I really enjoyed checking out the artists that were incorporated in this. In terms of the in-progress pile, we haven't seen much movement. I still have Byzantium, Tales from Gavagans Bar, and Babel on the go, and then Fallen Book. And then I added one, The Flag and the Cross, White Christian Nationalism and the Threat to American Democracy. So I just barely started this. I need to read it probably this weekend to go back to the library because I'm running out of time. So this one is really interesting to read in the context of everything that's going on in the US right now. Very interesting, and we'll actually come back to this topic a bit with my recommendations very slightly. So that's everything that I have in print ongoing. On audio, I am listening to Oleander Sword still. I'm at like 80% though, so I think I've only got a couple hours left. I got in a good like park time this morning. I had a 5K walk for a charity event, and so that got out some good progress on the audiobook. And then in ebook, I needed to finish Chain Gang All Stars, and I still have not. So I'm almost done with it though. I think that one's around 80% as well. So I think those two I have a good shot of finishing my audio and ebook this week. I finished a bunch of stuff I was watching this week, oddly, even though I didn't watch a ton. I finished the last couple episodes of Feel Good Season 2, starring Mae Martin and Charlotte Ritchie, I think. And I loved that show. I think it closed very nicely. So it could be a good completion to the 2 seasons that there were if they aren't continuing in it. But I would love to see more from the show because I just love May. And then I also finished Great British Bake Off Jr Season 7, which is the latest that's available in the US. It was a delight. I love Lola. Like, I want her to grow up or not even grow up, but like continue on being a host and engaging with the baking competition shows because she was a delight. And then, wonderfully, the new Hannah Gadsby special came out on Netflix. Oh my god, it's so good. It's called Something Special, and I just love her. This is finally a happy one, and that's kind of the promise she gives at the beginning. And wonderful to see a happy special that is focused mostly on her and her life and their relationship and how they met and kind of just their story as a whole, along with, of course, anecdotes about everything else. But it was so wonderful to watch. So I have loved all her specials and her book, so I highly recommend that one. I had intended to actually start on Queer Eye last night and did not manage it because I pretty much just fell right asleep and slept for 12 hours. So as I mentioned earlier, I've been feeling a little under the weather, so that knocked out my evening of watching. So I'm planning to get to some Queer Eye after I take a trip to the library to return books. So yeah, I guess that kind of covers most of my week. During the work week, it was very tired. I feel like I lost a couple days to work, so I've already talked about that. I already mentioned I had a 5K walk this morning. That was really fun and a little surprising. We were supposed to get rain. It did not rain. It was perfectly beautiful weather. Little warm. I definitely sweat a lot, but it was nice, pleasant considering, and we're supposed to get storms now this evening, so perfect timing for it. I also did end up going to the book sale at a park. It's a gym, it's a basketball court type setup, so huge layout last weekend. So I will have another book haul for you guys of secondhand books. Very exciting. I got way too many. I did wait to go till the last day when everything was half price, so I got some steals. So that was great, but that was last weekend and it was lovely weather, and so I did actually go walk at the park, and so I have some footage of walking at the park to share from that. It was really nice, and we hadn't quite gotten into the humidity that we have now. So I think that's pretty much it for my week. I don't think there was anything too exciting that happened all week. It was very low key, trying to just keep my energy going enough for work. So my recommendations this week, let's start with first the one that I alluded to with the book, was an essay that has popped up multiple times in my week, weirdly. I feel like I had read it before. It's older, it's not a recent release, but this is an essay that Umberto Eco wrote on fascism. So it's his take from having been in Stalin's Italy, I believe, and he talks through these bullet points for fascism, and it's kind of alarming to read in the context of, I think, more than 20 years later now. I think it's from 30 years ago. More than 20 years later, and seeing things playing out in the US that are very clearly aligned with the bullet points that he gives. So very interesting. I highly recommend you read it. The other one is actually two videos. So Greg from Supposedly Fun and Scott from Gunpowder Fiction and Plot appear to be nemesises, mortal enemies, something like that, on the Pulitzer Prize that just was announced. So I don't terribly follow the Pulitzer. Greg is a rabid Pulitzer super fan, so he is constantly talking about it. So I really enjoyed his live reaction video to the announcement. It was great. Really highly recommend you check that one out. But more so, the follow-up has been that Greg was overjoyed and sort of surprised, excited, thrilled by the announcement of the Pulitzer this past week. On the other hand, Scott is taking issue with the Pulitzer announcement and says they got it wrong. So the two of them have a battle of the wills in videos. So I will post up their two videos about why they think either the Pulitzer did it right or did it wrong, so you can check those out for yourself. But I just really enjoy the discussion surrounding it, of course. It's got massive literature nerd vibes between those two. So I think that's it for my week this week. Thank you all so much for watching. Just hailing, like massive hails. Crazy.